And we're starting in three, two, one. Welcome back to Epstein Files Review, episode 30. As always, this is an 18 and up channel, so if you're under the age of 18, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And we're going to start with our last file, as we always do, and jump right down the rabbit hole. So, this was the last file of the last episode, episode 29, which was this look in this drawer showing this additional computer equipment here. Hope everybody's having a good weekend, and we're going to jump right into the files. The redone episode 3 with sound is out. I see a lot of you guys watched that as well, so let's jump right back to the future. So here's that same drawer. It looks like the same drawer. It's empty, unless that was the top drawer they were showing. So it looks like they're going through each of these drawers, which is great because, like I said, when we see cabinets, I always say, I wonder if they're going to open the drawers. So it looks like they're going through them in order. So perhaps the next file will be the drawer underneath this one. Let's take a look. Oh, it's the same drawer. Okay. So, duplicate photo perhaps. Moving right along. Hopefully we get some good gems today. All right, so this is drawer number 4, and there's nothing in that one as well. So it must have been the second drawer, because I don't believe there was anything in the first one. Moving right along. Let's see what gems they got for us today. All right, so we got a trash bag here. They've got some of his clothes laid out, and we know it's Jeffrey Epstein because his initials are on the shirts. Moving right along. All right, so they've got the serial number for what looks like a computer. Like I said, when they served the warrant, they were looking for electrical equipment, so it makes sense that they would have that labeled there with the serial number. We've got a kitty shirt. I'm assuming that's not Jeffrey Epstein's, and I'm assuming those shorts aren't Jeffrey Epstein's as well. Those would be a little short on him. So we've got some clothing that looks like it may be the clothing of a teenage girl. All right, so we've got an article here. It looks like Princess Diana. I don't know why this is framed. Divorce is no bar to throne, says Prince. Okay, this is interesting. It looks like an English newspaper, but for some reason he's got it framed. Burst tier leads royal jet pilot off the runway. So I don't know what the significance of him having this is. We know Princess Diana left the Earth early, so I don't know if he had anything to do with that, but there is that framed photo in the back of his closet for some reason. Strange place for a photo. All right, so you've got this large shower here. It's probably one of the main showers because it looks a little bigger than the others. So here are just basic showering essentials there. Nothing too crazy. We are 10% through today's episode. All right, so here is that newspaper article framed in the back of what appears to be a shoe closet. Bunch of chairs and things like that, or little bins here stacked together. So I don't know if this was a storage area, but you would think it'd be a little odd to have a framed picture in the back of a storage closet, but that's where it is. So we saw this bathroom earlier. There was this house and this side view of what looks like an alleyway in this picture to the left. You can't really make it out too much, but it's in a half bathroom. Moving right along. All right, so here's the main room. There is that desk that we saw in these butterfly photos. Hope some of you guys looked up Project Monarch. I mentioned it in the last episode. And yeah, this room basically just had a bunch of extra pillows and sofas and things like that, but it had this desk in the middle of all of this clutter. All right, here's a better view of that clutter, and you've got his desk. Of course, you've got the binoculars here, and you've got this ledger of sorts, the phone, and Jeffrey's glasses. We always identify Jeffrey's glasses because when we see a bunch of glasses, we know that it was an area that Jeffrey Epstein frequented. Here are these things that we were trying to figure out what those were earlier, but it looks like some sort of equipment, and you've got the day beds there. 2 pairs of binoculars. All right, we are 15% through today's episode. or this episode. All right, so you've got these boxes. Once again, it's just another angle from the front of the desk. You can see how cluttered it is in this area, and you've got those butterfly photos. All right, so here is the kitchen. Nothing too crazy here. You've got some bowls up top there, and just regular kitchen stuff. All right, we got the fire hydrant here. Some of those stacked plastic things that we saw earlier. And I don't know if this is some sort of towel warmer, but you've got this device plugged in. Or maybe this is a fridge with drinks in it. Little electric panel box. Nothing too crazy there. All right, so this looks like a storage area. You've got some totes here. They're not labeled, so you really can't make out what they are. And yeah, just random equipment here, vacuum cleaner stuff. One file at a time. All right, here's a close-up of this rigid equipment. This looks like maybe some sort of filtration system, and you got these totes once again. We are 20% through today's episode. All right, gazebo. So this must be the gazebo area, and they've kind of just drawn their own label here. So let's take a look at that. I don't know if it's the same one that we saw earlier. Okay, so we've got this long walkway here, or driveway, leading to this area, which I assume is the gazebo. And as you can see, there's a road leading up here, and you can see the Caribbean Sea to the left. Now, there is one little gem I'm seeing here in this corner. You've got this weird looking gargoyle looking thing. If anybody knows what that is, please let me know. But it's funny that this will be on the side of the road. So if I were driving up and I saw that, it'd probably make me turn back around. But that's just me. Moving right along. All right, so this must be the gazebo that was labeled. You can see you've got these artifacts, these African faces here on the walls, and you've got these strange chairs here that looks like they're made out of elephant husks, and these strange little tables. We saw something like this in another room. I was trying to figure out what it was, if these were legs or if it was an animal, but this is a much closer look at that. So these are just areas you would sit around this table, which looks like it's made out of a tree stump. Very interesting. Not necessarily your typical gazebo furniture, but this is what he's got. So we'll move right along. Strangeness is already in this episode. All right, so here's another side view of this. I don't know if this looks like a mirror because it seems to be reflecting this tarp here in the walls. All right, here's another look at that mirror, and the mirror looks like it's got some sort of conch shells or something like that. I forget what these are called, but any of my marine biologists, you would know what that is. Another artifact face there with a very, very strange look on it. Looks very interesting. And we are 25% through today's episode. I'm assuming this gazebo would look pretty creepy at night. Here's another look at one of those faces, and you've got another one over here. Just looks like all tribal masks and things like that. You'd swear he was an anthropologist or something, but lots of cultural artifacts here. You got these little lamps here and these traditional cultural masks. Moving right along. All right, so you've got another cultural, almost looks Aztec, but I'm assuming this might be from African culture. I don't know if this is a clock, but it's hung on the wall. It's another one of these artifacts. It kind of looks like a face too. Moving right along. All right, so this looks like the shed to the gazebo. It doesn't look like there's much in there. Maybe a garden hose, perhaps. I can't really make out what that is, and looks like there's some cords there. See if we get a closer look on the inside, which we do. All right, looks like a power box of some kind, and that was a garden hose. All right, moving right along. We are 30% through this episode. All right, so we've got another staircase here that looks like it leads down to the water. All right, so here's a view. There is that, I I don't know if this is the same cabana we saw earlier. It's a wide view of that. You got some chairs out in front and some benches here. You could see all the land he had and the winding roads, a little bit of coastline with these palm trees lined up on the side there. Moving right along. Okay, so this is a different gazebo. This looks like a smaller, more intimate one. It's got a little picnic table there. It's covered with these Hawaiian-looking straws there. A little bit of grass. You can see the road winding up, and this looks like an elevated portion of the property there. There's some flower pots, if you will. Moving onward. Okay, here's a side view of that table. Looks like some pretty well polished wood. You've got some hills there, little property over there. We would need the map to find out exactly which property that is. Pipe Junction Shed. Pretty sure that says junction. The end's kind of messed up, but we are 35% through today's episode. All right, so here's a little hillside. You got a little stairs there, the bench, and of course, once again, you've got another one of these creepy double gargoyle looking statue things here. So he's got these all over the property for some reason. Looks very demonic. All right, so here's a hillside. Doesn't look like it has much development, but you can see there's something there in the corner. Maybe we'll get to see what that is. Okay, so it's just another little power shed. It's got a brick wall. It looks like it might be some source of power. You could see the pipes running through there. I'm sure we'll get another picture of the inside of that. Hopefully, there we go. So there's the electric cord. A little bit of water staining. So it doesn't look like anything was stored here. Just a power box, if you will. All right, temple. Now this should be interesting. I'm wondering if this is going to be the, I don't want to call it iconic. I would rather call it, what's the word I want to use? Infamous temple that Jeffrey Epstein had. And it's been said that Ellen DeGeneres' the set to her daytime TV show was a replica of this temple. What was going on in this temple? We don't know. But let's take a look to see if it is the temple that we're thinking of. We're 40% through today's episode. Let's see if this is the infamous temple. And yes, it is. So I'm sure you guys have seen this image multiple times. Okay. I doubt this is a helipad, but it's got this very symbolic. You can tell these are the colors of the Israeli flag. We're not saying necessarily this is the Israeli flag. We don't know. Like I said, we don't assume, but you've got these benches. But this is the temple. Most temples are used for worship. So what was going on in this temple? I really hope we get to see inside, because online, as far as Google and whatnot, when it comes to the images, and this is the temple pattern that was in the backdrop of Ellen DeGeneres' daytime TV show, we never get to see the inside. I wonder if this door is painted or if that's an actual door. But hopefully we get to see the inside. It looks like there's perhaps a piece of plywood on the side. We don't know if there were sacrifices in there. Like I said, we're not assuming, but we're hoping that once we look inside, we can see something that implicates anything. So let's take a look. All right, here's a side view. It's got a window there. It's got stairs leading up to it. Looks like a fire pit here. And you've got these patterns on all sides of this temple, as they call it. We're gonna move right along. I'm getting a little excited here. All right, so that was a piece of plywood there. You see this large window here. Like a person can almost walk through it. The paint is very interesting because it kind of gives it this three-dimensional look. You see the lights, so I'm assuming at night all you would see is these lights peering down around this temple. Let's see if we can get closer and get inside. As of now, I've never seen an image of the inside of this temple. You can see it's got this little four-wheel cart there, the water. So there's plywood on both sides. I don't know if these were breech doors or he barred this shut. So we don't know if this was Epstein's work or if this was under some sort of renovation. but it does have those giant pieces of plywood on those two sides there. Okay, so okay, this is getting interesting. So you look inside and you've got these plastic wrapped mattresses. This almost reminds me of there was a Jewish temple in New York that made big news that had tunnels underneath it. I believe it was in Brooklyn. And when they explored the tunnels, they saw a bunch of these stained mattresses. And I don't know if it was a search warrant, but when they began to search the temple, rabbis started popping up out of sewers, out of the sewer gates or whatever you want to call them. And you could YouTube that Brooklyn Temple raid, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is about the Epstein Files, so that's something completely separate. But if you're curious to what I'm talking about, feel free to go to YouTube and search that Jewish temple in Brooklyn that had tunnels underneath it and stained mattresses. So we're going to move right along. We are 45% through today's episode. All right, so this is the inside of the temple. This is the first I've seen of it. So it looks like there's some sort of painting on the ceiling. I don't know if this is supposed to be a map, but it's got like this pattern opaque rock on the walls here. It looks pretty tall because this is a giant window. You look at the door and you look at the size of the walls in comparison. There's an AC unit up here that's way taller than the floor. I mean, just look at that separation as far as height. So this is a pretty big temple. I say temple skeptically because we don't know what was being worshipped in here. So you've got these mattresses on the floor. You've got these bars here, and he's got these little sea creature things. We saw those in the office, the little shells. I don't know what this is about. Looks like some rollers to some sort of metal frame. They look a little rusty, so I don't know if they were in the water or outside, but there doesn't appear to be anything on these shelves. It's got the gold italics as usual, and there's these weird chains hanging from the shelves. I don't know what that's about. And this wall has like a nookie in it, like a little storage unit. If this was closed, it would blend with the wall, so hopefully we can get a closer look inside of there as well. This looks like a screen. It's not a door because you could see the wall print through this mesh screen. All right, we're going to move along. Finally getting in the temple. This was probably one of the most scrutinized buildings in the entire Little St. James property. So you've got an electric box here. We're going to analyze this as much as humanly possible. You've got this little table here. Looks like it's got some sort of tarp on it. I don't know if this would be a sacrificial table. It doesn't look like it has any staining on it. Floors look a little unkept, a little scratched. That's all I'm getting from this file here. You've got these mattresses. Moving right along. Okay, so here's that nook we were talking about. It's open. It's got some wires in there. So knowing Jeffrey Epstein, it's a high likelihood that maybe this had some sort of surveillance equipment in it. As you can see, there's some wires running back here too. Wires here. So I don't know if they were running through the wall, but there was probably some form of surveillance as far as watching this room. Here's that ceiling. You see a unicorn in a boat there. You can't really make it out. Yeah, there's a lot of scratching on this floor. And even this has some nooks in there. So I don't know if there was renovations, but this floor is definitely worn. I wish they took a picture of that ceiling. I would like to get a closer look at that ceiling. But we are 50% through today's episode. All right, so here is that ceiling again. So now it's looking a little slimmer. I mean, you look at the size of this mattress, this might be a king size, and it takes up about half the room. Got a little step ladder, but it's very interesting. Why would you have a stack of mattresses in your quote unquote temple? The floor is very, very poor conditioned. You can see all these scratches here. I'd love to see what's in here because it's really dark right there. I don't know if that's the door or how many other crannies, nooks and crannies as far as the wall opening are there in this quote unquote temple. Let's dig deeper down this rabbit hole. All right, so you've got this spiral pillar here. doesn't really indicate much. Another pillar, two different pillars, and then you've got this paint on the wall. Even this paint here in the ceiling, it kind of emulates the top of this pillar as if it continues on, given like a 3D effect. We need a zoomed out picture of this ceiling. All right, here's a wall that's just got plywood over it completely. So I don't know if this place got cleared out or what this was used for, but it's very open. So I'm assuming you could probably fit a lot of people in here. Here's another piece of this wall. I don't know if it's being renovated, and you can see this plywood going all the way up practically to the ceiling. Here's another side view, and you've got these mattresses. This looks like two twin size mattresses. Maybe all of these mattresses are twins. And they're just stacked together, and they look like they're on a pallet of some sort. Here's another look at the side wall. So I don't know if all of this quote unquote temple was going to be made like this or if this was being torn down. But you got those three mattresses. You got these frames here. I don't know what they were for. And that ceiling. The ceiling clearly was the first thing done because you can just tell how well it's done, the design and how elaborate. And then you look at everything else is unfinished. Here's the side of this pillar again. You can see there's some gloves here, so I don't know if this wall goes in, but there's all kinds of nooks and crannies. I don't know if this spins around like something that you would see in an Indiana Jones movie. I'm not putting anything past Jeffrey Epstein at this point. So this looks like some sort of electrical, this looks like a switchboard, but there's some wires that go into the wall there. All right, so here is that ceiling. Let's see if we can get, it looks double-sided, but you've got all kinds of animals and stuff here. So you've got Hercules. So this looks mythological. There's a whole lot going on. Got some sort of bull here. We've got a lobster, a scorpion, and it's got some sort of angel, animals here. So as far as a temple, you got a lion, some water running here. You've got some sort of minotaur or centaur. And you got a ship here, the water, the cross. There's a bull. There's so much going on here. I'm going to just keep flipping this thing to see what I could see. You got people running on clouds. Looks like some sort of fire here. Maybe this is some sort of altar. You got a triangle. You've got what looks like some sort of balance beam. Anybody that's got a degree in mythology, this would be the time to chime in the comments section to get us all up to speed what's happening here. So it looks like these guys are on a cloud. This one appears to be smoking something, or he's holding some sort of incense perhaps. He's got a sword behind his back. His head is facing this way towards these two. They might be fighting. And there's that unicorn. It even says unicorns. What is the meaning of this? It's very Orion. So this is all mythological stuff. Very, very strange. Very strange. We're going to move along. Right, here's another look at this ceiling. I don't think I saw this one right here. Let's flip this around. See if we can get a closer look at this guy right here. So he's got arrows in his hand. You've got some sort of parrot. And there's a bird. Yeah, this is very, very strange. This looks like a dragon. Let's flip this around again. Where's that dragon at? trying to analyze as much of this as there's this dragon looking creature. This looks like something you'd find on Lord of the Rings. And there's this kid here. He looks kind of shocked, like, what's going on? But he's got an arrow. It's like some sort of Cupid. You've got this woman here. There's a shield. I mean, literally, you could spend all day looking at this, trying to figure out what is happening. This is what I wanted to look at here. Very strange. Very strange. There's so much going on. But we're going to move forward. We are 60% through this episode. All right, so here is another nook with some wires there. I don't know if this room was being assembled or disassembled. It's kind of hard to tell because it's at like a halfway point. Here's another wide view. So there's clearly, you see this broken wood. There's been some work done here. So I don't know if the rest of the room is supposed to look like this or if it was being torn down and rebuilt. Moving right along. All right, so here's a side angle of this wall and this one with the plywood on it. And you see this broken wood on the floor. Now to renovate, you also have to demo, but there's signs of renovations and there's sign of demolition at the same time. This one's whitewashed. Can't really see what's going on here. Hopefully we get another picture. Has a little less light in it so we can make out what's going on in that picture. The construction yard. Okay, so they're done with the temple. I don't think there's anything online that shows the inside of the Little St. James Temple. I mean, prove me wrong, put it in the comment section, but that's the first I've seen of it. So we're headed to the construction yard. All right, so here is a walkway. Looks like it goes to an open field. You can see that truck there. And you got these little, I don't know if those are lights on the side of the road. I haven't seen any little demon heads yet. All right, so here's some construction equipment. Now there's a lot of space here. You could probably dig this up, put concrete, and make an entire mansion here. I mean, look at these giant vehicles make up a small portion of this open space, just giving you perspective of how big this space is, like football field size. All right, here's a close-up look of the equipment. When they call it the construction yard, I don't know if he had plans on building another facility there. Here's a genie, but it did say construction yard, and he did have lots of plans and blueprints for building stuff, so there's no telling. Here's a dump truck, and we are 70% through today's episode. I wish there was more in that he's got his own ambulance. I don't know why you would need that, but I'm assuming this is in proximity to the temple, and it was widely criticized online why he had his own ambulance. Now, you could say he's on an island, and as far as any type of medical attention, I'm assuming that it may take some time, but this is very odd for you to have your own ambulance. And they were saying that there were all kinds of abortions and things like that happening on the island. Here's another look at those trucks. But like I said, we don't speculate, but we do see he's got a temple with some really weird ceilings, and he's got his own ambulance. So make of that what you will. Here's another truck. All right, so he has a gym. Seems to have a gym on every property. All right, here's a walk path. You got this building here with these plants on it. We are 75% through today's episode. All right, it's a big space back here. This box, I don't know if it has a lock on it. And you can see the road there. We're going to keep on going down the rabbit hole. Here's another look at this box here. Can't really make out what that is right there. Unless this is looks like some sort of fountain of some kind, perhaps. All right, we've got an extreme look at some, I don't know what that is. It's boxes. Looks like something you would get from Home Depot or something like that. Some sort of construction equipment. Maybe it's tables or something like that. It's a very confined space. Okay, so here's that thing we were looking at earlier. It looks like it's got some sort of Buddha on the top of it, and you've got these windows and a terrace there. Looks like this might be another main house. I'm sure we'll get a look inside. All right, you've got this little cubby area in front of the door. Maybe this was designed to be a shade area and there was supposed to be like some chairs or something, kind of like a front porch. You got the woods behind it. And we are 80% through this episode. Here's a more lit picture of that. All right, here's a side view. You can kind of see this other side here. It looks like a pretty big facility. Windows going along this side, and you just got some rocks over there. All right, so this is the inside of this area. It's clearly being built because it does not have a floor, but somehow it has a clock, it has a sound system. So I'm assuming the floor is being redone because there is a lot of decoration in this room. It's got the thermostat. I don't know what that is. Ton of wires over there. So I don't know if he was remodeling the gym. I don't know what all of that is, but there's a lot of wires there. And then you saw a bracket to the upper left for TV. Okay, he's got a speed bag, speakers hanging. So this is definitely going to be a gym. Pretty big gym for one person. All right, here's another look at the floor. You got some wires hanging around. You got a speed bag in the corner. So what I thought was the TV bracket that may have been the bracket that was holding the speed bag. Here's another look at those windows from the front door there. All right, here's another view from the right side of the room, looking at these windows and that front door. Here's a side view. So there's multiple rooms here. There's one leading over here. There's the clock, and you could see in front of this, I think that's a window. He's got one of those little model figures again. Looks like it's voguing or something. You got the outside right there, but you have that. He's got this little banister with that. I don't know why you would need that, but that's there. All right. You can see that. Looks like it's on some sort of like dance pole almost. So this might be two people. I thought it was a reflection, but it looks like two people. I want to get a close up of this. And there's a little pole. Looks like they're dancing in unison. There's the speed bag in the background. So this is a gym. And then you can see this room. It's got the same lack of a floor. So this whole place was being built or renovated. Okay, so we've got a file missing here, but potentially we're going to do what we always do, try to click it multiple times. Okay, so it came back up. Here's another view. You can kind of peer into this room here. It looks like we've got some shelving with some boxes. I would assume if they want to explore all these rooms, they're just going to have to put their feet in between these plywood slots, which probably would be a pain in the butt, but for the sake of a proper investigation, that's exactly what I expect them to do. All right, so here is a room. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows going across the length of the room, which shows you how big the room is. And of course, you've got this unfinished floor. We are 90% through today's episode. All right, here is the long way. You could see the mirrors on both sides, the windows looking out into the forest there. All right, here is the other side of the room. As you can see, there's a cabinet here. It's got some stuff in it. You can't really make out what it is from this angle, but he's got congruent windows and mirrors on both sides of this room. Let's see if we can get this to load up. There we go. All right, here is that little box that we were talking about. It looks like he's got some wires here. It looks like a speaker, maybe some sound equipment. Let's see if we can get a little closer, see what's going on here. Some bags. This looks like some sort of audio visual equipment, some shoes, and lots of wires. Nothing too crazy in here, and it looks like a little speaker. Don't know what's in there. All right, here's a closer look. It looks like better resolution. So this is definitely shoes, a hat, speaker. This is sideways, but clearly it plugs into something. So this audio visual. This might be a Home Depot bag. I know we were saying earlier those boxes look like Home Depot, and these look like some sort of sound wires, perhaps. So he's hooking up some sort of sound system. All right, here is a wide view of that same room without the floor from the middle. You can see both sides, windows, mirrors. We are 95% through today's episode. All right, here's a wall that looks like something can be hung on it. So maybe he was making a weight rack, perhaps. Moving right along. All right, here's another drawer. So this place clearly was used already. So this has got to be a renovation because you got old shoes in here, rags, there's shirts. I don't know what that is. Maybe some sort of towels or jeans. Looks like a pair of jeans. You can see the belt loops there. So he already was using this area. It looks like a renovation. All right, here is the corner of this room. See if we can make out what that is. Maybe that's a sound system or maybe that's a camera. Can't really tell. We are 99% through this episode. Here's that room. You can see those little figures dancing there. So this was the room I said you had to walk over through these little nooks and crannies just to get in. So this was that cabinet we saw from that side angle over here. So we saw what was in there. Nothing too crazy, but it does confirm with all these old shoes and water bottles that this was already a gym before they tore up this floor. And the last file of this episode, file 3000, which is this tore up room here. So it looks like you've got some audio-visual equipment, perhaps, lots of wires, the ceiling's all messed up, and then you got some pipes and things like that. I don't know if this goes to the air conditioning unit. You see some, this might be the air conditioner, and tons of wires. And what is that? I thought that was a TV that was busted out, but it looks like some sort of rack that would be hung maybe to support some sort of equipment and boxes and things like that. And there's the outside door. See a drainage pipe there, and maybe that's a water fountain. So we're going to leave it there. This was episode 30, and I've already kept you guys for 37 minutes, but this was a great episode. We finally got to take a look inside of that temple. I can't wait to hear your comments in the comment section in regards to this entire episode and the temple and the condition it was in and why there were 6 twin mattresses in there. But I've kept you guys long enough. As always, keep reposting, keep subscribing, because like I said, this channel is only going to grow more because we're going to raise more and more awareness until we get through all of these files. The 3 million we've got, and hopefully we get the other 3 million that have been suppressed. As always, I try to respond to all of the comments, and anything you guys saw that we didn't, please put it in the comment section so we can review it and discuss it at a later date. What else? Make sure your notification buttons are hit because, like I said, you never know when an episode's going to come out. It's Sunday. An episode's probably going to drop in the next hour. So if you didn't have a notification, you probably won't be finding this out until you search again because you're not going to know when episodes are coming out. So do yourself a favor, since there's so many episodes that are going to be coming out, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit your notification, and make sure you get the word out on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. I can't stress it enough. I know I say it in every episode, but like I said, there are still tons of people that have no idea what's going on, have no idea what's in these files, or even a clue how to navigate them. And this is what we are trying to bring to them. We're trying to bring truth and transparency to this entire issue. But I've spoken on it enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will see you guys in episode 31, where we will be reviewing files 3000 through 3100. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys on Monday.